Bring in Republican Congressman Mike Turner. He's a member of the House Intelligence Committee. He joins me on the phone right now. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Why did French intelligence, do you think, fail to translate this intelligence into an operation to stop these terrorists? What was the breakdown?
You know, I think, certainly we don't know at this point, but there certainly is a reluctance at times to take action while you're trying to balance the critical information you're receiving of those who might be involved in terrorism with, people's individual rights and also, not taking action too soon. But at the same time, you have to balance coordination of this. And that's what certainly the 9/11 Commission said after we did the investigation of what had occurred here in the United States, is you also have to make certain that you have the cross-collaboration of your own intelligence and policing forces so that you have the most critical information to be able to take action.
What it sounds like from various reports is that French intelligence, following the Kouachi brothers, determined that they had turned to basic crime, counterfeiting, and kind of just decided to stop following him, given that they didn't think that they were involved in Islamic extremism. It turns out, at least according to some reports, that counterfeiting was specifically to fund the terrorist attack. How can intelligence officials, how can law enforcement tell such a thing?
That's one of those things I think are cross-jurisdictional also, where when you have someone who is involved in any criminal activity and at the same time that you have enough information that indicates that they could be a terrorism threat, you certainly want to put that at the top of your list and take action on any criminal activity, because they certainly can hold them accountable, even prosecute them for crimes unrelated to terrorism, even if your underlying concern brought them first to your attention based upon the terrorist threat.
Congressman, one of the things we've heard is that they simply do not have in France enough members of the law enforcement and counterterrorism community to monitor all of the hundreds of people who went from France or other parts of Europe into Syria, fought alongside al-Qaeda, the al-Nusra Front, or ISIS, and then came back. Do we in the United States have enough people in law enforcement and counterterrorism to follow all of the people coming back from the battlefield in Iraq and Syria?
Well, we were certainly ahead of the curve here, and we certainly have dedicated a significant amount of resources. But Jake, you bring up a very good point here, and that is the coordination of resources through all of Western nations. These terrorist organizations coordinate and communicate and coordinate their resources and their deployment without reference to any international. And our ability to work with the French, to work with our NATO partners, and to work with our own intelligence agencies and security forces is really critical. I think this gives us an opportunity with what's happened in Europe to reevaluate how we do that coordination. Many times there's information, for example, that the EU has, or we're members of the EU, that is not shared with NATO or is not shared with the United States because we're not members. And I think this is an opportunity for us to revisit how do we all make certain that we have the most actionable information to lessen the threat.
Congressman, we've seen people rally in solidarity with Paris, of course, but we've also seen in the last few days protests against Charlie Hebdo depicting Muhammad on its cover inside its pages, including today in Chechnya, yesterday in Niger, where there was some loss of life, last week in Pakistan. What do you take from these scenes?
Jake, I think this is in sharp contrast to the today's celebration of the legacy of Martin Luther King, where we celebrate his legacy of tolerance and peace. As we look to the issue of content and objections and protests, we also have to look very closely at what we're dealing with here is Islamic terrorism. And that terrorism, which will kill someone over their opinion or their statements or their beliefs or their freedom of expression, just cannot be tolerated and must be actioned.
Congressman Mike Turner, Republican from Ohio, member of the House Intelligence Committee, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Police killed